Well, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for everyone. I just want to say a thank you for everyone who's still here listening in and taking all of this in from all these amazing speakers, part of our Core Connects Core Partner ecosystem. So now we're here with the FINRA broker dealers. And so for all of you, no, they're the NX, you got to go XX. No. These are the people. So the lawyers make your dream come true, keeping you compliant. These are the people that make sure you're fully compliant when you're doing your offering, whether it's Reg D, Reg CF, and Reg A. And you really need to listen because the game is not the same as it was 5 years ago or even a year ago. We have a very different commissioner on board. So here you go by listening to the top FINRA broker dealers in this sector, and it's going to be led off by our friend Douglas Ruark. Douglas, the floor is yours. And it looks like he needs to come back. I'll get carefully. I thought she's going to bring him back. So as she's bringing him back, let's start with the introductions. First, Sherry, please.
Thank you so much, Oscar. Excited to be here. So I'm Sherry Noonan. I think Douglas actually just came back in. So I'm going to hand it over to Douglas. Douglas, why don't you step in and start moderating, and then we can move into introductions. We had just kicked off introductions.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much, Oscar, for the opportunity. And my name is Doug Ruark. I'm president of Regulation D Resources, and we are a 22-year-old firm that specializes in the preparation of securities offerings. And we also function as a what I would call a quarterback in getting people through the process of executing Regulation D, Regulation CF, and Regulation A+ offerings. And, one of the key components to doing a securities offering, and especially a modern securities offering where you're generally soliciting out into the public, is making sure that you've got broker-dealers on board to make sure that these offerings are administered properly. And so that's really going to be the function of this segment, is talking about the role of broker-dealers in this process. What are the functions? What are the advantages of having a broker-dealer on? Obviously, in certain programs like Reg CF, it's a requirement. So that's really what the focus is going to be, is getting people to understand the role of the broker-dealer, what are the functions, what are the advantages, because it is a really key component to this entire process. And then I also think, too, getting people to understand the differences as well. One of the things that I've found is that a lot of times people don't necessarily understand the difference between a broker-dealer acting as in an administrative fashion versus a retail fashion. And so we can also get some color on that as far as the differences there, as far as the role of the broker-dealer in a particular securities offering. But let's go ahead and get these introductions started off. And on my screen, we'll start at the top. Eitan, please introduce yourself and your firm.
Sure. Thanks, Doug. Eitan Butler here. I'm the chairman at Dalmore Group. We are a FINRA broker-dealer headquartered in New York. We were founded in 2005, and today we specialize in helping companies raise capital online at scale through regulations D, A, and CF. We've been fortunate over the last 2 years to have onboarded over 180 Reg A offerings and a quickly growing number of Reg CF offerings, many of which have reached the maximum offering amount. And we always look to share what we've seen work well and not so well with our new clients.
Fantastic. And I'll then go to Sherry. Sherry, please introduce yourself and your firm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Doug. So my name's Sherry Noonan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Rialto Markets. We're a FINRA registered broker-dealer across all 50 states that empowers companies in their private markets capital raises via self-hosted solutions and institutional investor networks across all private markets, so Regulation D, CF, and A. We also operate an SEC-recognized alternative trading system for secondary trading across private markets.
Fantastic. Paul, please introduce yourself and your firm.
Yes. Paul Carlson-Willis, CEO of Justly Markets. We are fairly new to this space. We are owned by a NASDAQ listed company called Ideonomics. who are worth just over $1 billion currently, who have gone through the private equity fundraising. And actually, a lot of their business that they're building in the EV space is actually, again, in private equity. So it's in our DNA. We have brought that to a fundraising platform that is CF, Reg A, and Reg D. And the experience that we're bringing in from the senior team is across the full brokerage gambit. So we're looking at being able to offer DD, as well as high-level compliance, as well as global access, both to global deals as well as global investors.
Fantastic. Richard, please introduce yourself and your firm.
Sure. Hi, I'm Richard Luftig. I'm a managing partner at Castle Placement. We were formed in 2009, FINRA licensed broker-dealer. We have raised billions of dollars of private equity and debt capital for our clients. We just started getting active in equity crowdfunding at the beginning of this year, and we've gotten quite active and plan to continue to do so.
Fantastic. All right, so let's start. Eitan, I'm going to pitch this question to you. So for Reg CF offerings, you're either executing that type of offering on an SEC-approved crowdfunding platform, or you're executing it with a FINRA broker-dealer that's administering it. And Reg A, that's really the one that requires it. Reg D and Reg A Plus, you're not required to have a broker-dealer on board, although most people that are in the industry would obviously tell you that, especially with Reg A Plus, you're going to want a broker-dealer on board. Let's talk about the general role of a broker-dealer, and let's go ahead and we'll maybe use Reg A Plus as an example, but obviously it kind of works across the spectrum. So I'm an issuer. I'm getting ready to execute a securities offering, and ultimately, why would I need a broker-dealer on board? And I say need. Let's go ahead and we'll use it for a Reg A standpoint where maybe it's not required. What would be the function of the broker-dealer in that standpoint, and from an administrative standpoint? And then I want to then step into talking about obviously the differences between that and then operating in a retail standpoint.
Yeah, so you don't need a broker-dealer involved for a Reg A. A Reg A could be an issuer-directed offering. Most people choose to work with the broker-dealer first because it's a more efficient way to offer your securities in all 50 states, provided that the broker-dealer is registered and licensed in all 50 states. Many people also choose to work with the broker-dealer to conduct their offering through a regulated entity. And there's a number of benefits to doing so. But the BD's role includes due diligence on the issuer, on the issuing company, on the officers and directors, as well as ongoing compliance and review and approval of every single investment that investors make into the offering. So there's the administrative side, and then there's the value add side, right? If you work with a broker-dealer that has experience in observing multiple Reg A offerings and seeing perhaps why certain ones are not working out well and other ones are, that could be particularly helpful from an investor acquisition perspective, from a distribution and syndication perspective, an investment banking perspective, as well as an understanding of how financial publications and newsletters work. So there's multiple components, including co-listing the offering on other platforms that you get by having a broker-dealer of record or a lead managing broker-dealer involved in the offering.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I always like to impress upon issuers is that especially with something like Reg A Plus, I mean, you're executing something that's most sophisticated exempt offering that you can execute. So it's one level short of an S1 essentially, and so it is very important to have a broker-dealer on board in that regard. Obviously, a 50-state licensed broker-dealer. There's also the problem state issue where there's additional filing, even with Tier 2 Reg A Plus, where you're federally qualified. There's still additional filings in certain states related to their broker-dealer rules. And if you have an admin broker-dealer on board, you obviously don't have to worry about that as an issuer. From a retail standpoint, Sherry, can you talk about just kind of the differences between maybe an admin relationship with a broker dealer with an issuer versus, say, a retail relationship? I know Rialto has the capabilities to do both, and I think that might be helpful for people that maybe they've never really had interaction with a broker dealer and they maybe don't understand that terminology. What would be the differences between a broker dealer operating from a retail standpoint versus an admin standpoint?
So a retail standpoint meaning actually assisting with outreach. Is that
correct? And raising.
Perfect. Okay. So, and this is it's a great question. Great question, Doug. So the primary work when we're working with issuers in terms of as a broker dealer and a lot of other broker dealers that are on this panel, they'll talk about the compliance end of things, and the compliance end of things refers to everything from the actual marketing reviews that Eitan went through, and then everything as all the investors come in, making sure that know your customer, anti-money laundering and suitability checks are done, and then confirming the money movements. So matching up those approved investors with the actual monies coming into the escrow account. That's really the operational end of making sure that a raise can flow. And you can imagine if you've got a $10 million offering and you have 10,000 investors, that's quite a heavy lift if you don't have something behind the scenes really managing that. So that's really the operational end. In addition, you can work with a broker dealer that has a distribution network and can really assist with pushing out distribution from an eyeballs perspective, finding investors that are interested in the actual investment. And that's really when we talk about the retail broker dealer end of things. We don't bring investors to the offering. However, we do have relationships with investment banks and other broker dealers to be able to federate that deal out to platforms and other interested investors to facilitate that end of the relationship.
Perfect. So let's also talk about, I think one of the things that I would encourage people to do is that, if you're interested in doing one of these offerings, if you're interested in having a broker dealer on board, again, it is a requirement with Reg CF, but if it was a Reg D offering or Reg A plus, one of the things I encourage is call around, talk to a number of broker dealers. There's obviously the KoreConnect's ecosystem. There's some fantastic broker dealers in that ecosystem, obviously. Paul, I'm going to pitch this question to you. So as far as fit goes, I know your broker dealer focuses on I believe social impact type investments. So how important is it for an issuer to really work to interview different broker dealers and really make sure there's a good fit there between themselves and the firm?
Doug, I think that's the key element. As you said, there are a lot of good broker dealers out there in this space, and you have three of the best here with us today, or all of us. I would say that again, it's access is going to be one of the key things you want. There are broker dealers, as has been mentioned already, where they work more with venture capital companies or family offices as a way of getting investors into your deals. We, for instance, have family offices, we have venture capital, but we have a very, very big retail network. As I said, we're owned by Ideonomics. They have over 300,000 retail shareholders. We have access to that client base. As we've mentioned, Justly is an impact broker dealer. And what we mean by that is that we are actually focused a lot on companies that are ESG. But we also have companies or issuers on our platform that are not ESG, because we do believe that we want to give our clients good access to good issuers. So we're actually donating a percentage of that profit to a nonprofit that specializes in an ESG. So we're kind of talking to the client base that we know is out there that belong to Ideonomics, as well as the growing client base that we are seeing out there that want to make an impact and want to do ESG and be involved in that way. So again, if someone's an issuer in ESG, then we would be an ideal fit. There may be another broker out there that they would speak to that has a better offering that suits their issuance, and someone could be specializing in pharmaceuticals, someone could be specializing in real estate, and I think we can all talk to various broker dealers in this space that do specialize in real estate, as real estate was one of the key elements to growing this space. So it is important. The other questions to ask is how is AML and KYC done? And the SEC and FINRA are really looking at things right now in that space, especially around social media. So again, how can the broker-dealer help you monitor social media, help you with the message that you want to send out? Those elements are very, very key. So it is important to speak to more than one broker-dealer.
Richard, I'm gonna come to you with this question. So I'm an issuer, and I've decided that that I want to work with your firm. I want to work with Castle Placements. So what walk me just assume I'm a neophyte. Walk me through what does that process look like? From engagement through to getting a 5110 filing in. What does that look like? Just because I know in our firm we get a lot of people that ask questions about that. There's kind of the base discussion of what does the broker dealer do and why do you want them on board, but then there's the question of, okay, well, what does that interaction actually look like to go from introduction to the point where they're actually on board with the offering?
Sure. So we treat the process very similarly to the way that we do Reg D 506C. So we do full-on due diligence on the issuer, and simultaneously we are preparing and strategizing on the marketing materials. So as soon as we get through the, what we call the 4 pillars, which are due diligence, the audit, the documentation with the SEC, and completing the landing page and ancillary marketing materials, we launch the transaction. So, to us, it's, I don't want to put percentages on it, but if I had to, I would say it's like 50% of a legal regulatory compliance process and 50% of a strategic marketing process.
Eitan, so one of the questions that we get a lot is, okay, I've got Dalmore Group on board adminning my offering. Again, we'll just use an example, say it's a Reg A+. And one of the questions that we get a lot is it possible to have multiple broker dealers involved in one of these offerings? And so let's say Dalmore's on board administering a Reg A+. What does the process look like if as an issuer, I'm able to find, let's say, another broker dealer that has retail clients that want to invest? What does that process look like to have additional broker dealers potentially come in and work on selling that offering if there's already a Dalmore Group in place as the admin broker dealer?
So you have the admin broker dealer that gives you the ability to host your offering on your own domain for a low cost relative to what most people think broker dealers charge, and to direct all of your promotion, marketing, your own ecosystem of investors, friends, families, and institutions to your own website where you're the sole beneficiary of that promotional effort and exercise. Now you're at a position of strength, and you could then look at, okay, how could other broker dealers and other investment banks and other platforms help me on a success fee only basis? We have a number of our clients that are listed on other platforms. We encourage it. And in fact, we introduce them, many of them to. We have some clients that are listed on Republic, co-listed. We have some of our Reg A issuers that are listed on Start Engine and many others. And so if you're a yield-based offering, we have, I think, 10 private REITs. You're not going to want to pay a 7, 8, 9% fee. But if you're an equity offering and the valuation is sufficient to justify paying a typical 6, 7, 8% fee to another platform, there's a number of other platforms that are out there. Now, you have to want to be on that platform, and that platform's committee has to accept you as wanting to be there. But what you're doing is you're putting yourself in a position to, to receive potential investors that otherwise may not have recognized your offering. Reg A is very different than Reg D. Reg D, the old school way was to build a syndicate. You had a master broker-dealer and you would build a selling group around it. Most broker-dealers are not calling their book of business with a $1,000 investment opportunity that could be put on a credit card. So you want to get in front of where these typical Reg A investors are. And they happen to be consolidated on a number of pretty successful platforms. So, a couple of them are the ones I've mentioned. So there is a value add in running your own campaign on your own site for a low cost, while at the same time putting yourself in a position to get in front of hundreds of thousands or 1 million potential investors on some of the other platforms. And you're not limited to 1 or 2 or 3. You could grow that as far as you want.
Fantastic. Sherry, I'm going to come to you with this next one. So, one of the things that I've really enjoyed is watching the technology over the last, especially the last 5 to 7 years, but the technology that has developed to not only take people through the subscription processes through a web-based system, do it efficiently, but also some of the ability then for broker dealers to have a back-end gateway into a system to verify the securities trade, the security sales, and what have you. So one of the benefits, obviously, of KoreConnex and their system is that they have those back channels. So can you talk about the importance of, first of all, having a good, solid back-end network for the processing, but then the broker dealers interplay into that type of system wherein the broker dealer is able to go in and efficiently track and engage in the compliance checks on the security sales?
Absolutely. I think that's really important. When we think about private markets, and when we first got involved in private markets, something that really struck us was the fact that there really wasn't a ton of infrastructure built. And I think now the industry has built that infrastructure, which is fantastic. But it's infrastructure from the standpoint of the investment side, and really creating infrastructure to be able to allow thousands and tens of thousands of investors to come in a cost-effective way and invest in a securities offering. And the infrastructure required then for all the service providers, including the broker-dealer, to be able to effectuate that process, right? To be able to have everything at their fingertips around the information they need to make that process run smoothly and scalably, if that's a word, to scale, and then manage that entire process. There's really you need infrastructure like what KoreConnex sort of delivers to pull all of that together. I think in addition, though, being able to have a system on the back end where your cap table can be managed, and broker dealers, we're hooked in to the KoreConnex system, and we can go in and see the cap table when it's appropriate, to understand what the securities look like, what restrictions might be on the securities, and encumbrances, or if they're still seasoning for any type of transfer or trade information is critically important. To me, that's what's been missing, and being able to build that infrastructure is what's going to be required to get the industry to the type of scale that's being anticipated in the next year to 2 years.
Paul, so I'm going to play the role of the neophyte issuer again. So I'm looking to execute an offering, and I'm interested in getting a broker dealer on board. One of the questions that we get a lot is, what are the fees? What does it look like as far as a fee standpoint to engage a broker dealer and have them on board? And let's go ahead and again, we'll set a baseline, and we'll say Reg A plus, and then I'll go to maybe Eitan, and we'll do a CF version of this. But let's say Reg A plus. What can people expect? I'm an issuer. I'm looking to get your firm on board. What would be typical as far as the fees and the commissions that we would be paying to have a firm like yours on board, and kind of what would be typical, obviously, in the market?
Yeah, great question. I think if in most cases, if the broker dealer is just going to be broker dealer of record, you would normally find that they will charge around 1% to do that of the raise. And then it's really what else that broker dealer is going to do for you. And again, we touched on this a little earlier about talking to the various broker dealers, seeing where their value add is. So if you're going to have a broker dealer that's going to help you with DD, if you've got a broker dealer that's going to work with your legal counsel, if you've got a broker dealer that's going to do the fundraising, then someone like ourselves, we charge between 5 and 8% of what we raise. So when we put an issuer on our platform and we go out to those 300,000 plus clients, plus the family offices and so forth, we will charge between 5 and 8% on what we raise ourselves in that deal for our client. I think the standard is between 5 and 10, and again, that will sometimes differ between the service offering and how much is being done, and also the type of deal, right? If it's a CF, an A, and a D, you normally find the pricing is a little different. But I would say that you normally see it's between 5 and 10%.
Okay, sounds good. Eitan, I'm an issuer. I'm coming to you. I'd like Dalmore I'd like to do a CF offering with Dalmore. So let's talk maybe specifically on the CFs. Are there differences there in the market as far as what the commission impact would look like? Are there maybe equity components that would maybe be a little different there? Reg A is a different program than Reg CF. So if someone's coming through and they're looking to do a CF, what would they typically see as far as fees, maybe a kind of equity give up component there to the broker dealer? Can you speak to that?
Sure. So across the market, what you'll see on many of the marketplace platforms will be somewhere in the range of 7.5% to 12% when you add the kind of the cash and the equity fee combined. Our fee structure for CF includes an upfront fee for due diligence, as well as a 3-in-1 structure for capital raise, meaning 3% cash, 1% stock on funds raised at the valuation of the offering.
Great. Sherry, I'm going to pitch this question to you. So what role might a broker dealer play after the offering is closed? I know Rialto has an ATS system, but is there a role or a benefit to having a broker dealer on board after the offering? And maybe that is even just discussing things like having access to an alternative trading system. Can you speak to that?
So after an offering is completed, actually from an operational perspective, many of the offerings that we have will have, tails in terms of the offering closes, but there are still operational things that need to be done, whether that's the escrow, tidying up the escrow, finalizing any communications with investors that have come in, making sure all of the funds are ticked and tied. And that's really takes longer in terms of post the actual close of the offering. After that, once everything, the dust has settled, as it were, issuers can apply to place on an alternative trading system that allows for private market secondary transactions. And I saw in the chat that there were a few conversations around that. Rialto Markets, as well as a few others, there's a panel later today, does offer a secondary market trading through our alternative trading system. We offer it directly with retail clients, so we're not a broker-to-broker system, although we do welcome brokers on the platform as well. So issuers can place their issuances onto the system and allow for their investors to monetize that investment.
Fantastic. Well, look, first of all, I want to kind of end here on this segment by saying that it's really been an exciting time over the last 10 years or so with the changes that came through with the Jobs Act, with the streamlining of Reg A+, with the enhancements they've done to Reg CF. It's really an exciting time right now for private companies to be able to go out and use some very sophisticated programs to syndicate capital. I think ultimately, if you're doing that type of offering, and especially a type of offering that's going to allow you to go out into the public domain and solicit investors, it's critically important that you have the proper support staff and support vendors in place. And a broker dealer, in my opinion, is just a given. Obviously, it's a requirement in a CF. I would prefer to see it in Reg Ds, but with Reg A+ especially, you're executing essentially a private IPO. and that is a very sophisticated process. And ultimately, you're going to have a lot of investors coming in from a lot of different states. You're going to want that broker dealer on board. And obviously, we've got some of the best here right on this panel. And I've appreciated the opportunity to moderate this. Oscar, as always, thank you very much. And thank you to everybody that's been on the panel. It was really fantastic information. And hopefully people now have a better understanding of where a broker-dealer fits into this equation. And obviously, what can their role be in the offering? And then obviously, what do their fees look like? And what does the process look like to actually engage a broker-dealer?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.